Good evening, everybody. Scott Stevens here as we take this show a little bit later into the evening. Gets me, it affords us a little more time to kind of wrap up what has happened over the course of the day. Although it is later in the day, and sometimes the tongues, the mouth, they all don't sync up like they do, say for the 5 o'clock show or the 6 o'clock show. 10 o'clock, you've had dinner and you're coming back in. You're just closing up the day. So that's kind of where we are on this Thursday afternoon. Really nice weather, almost coast to coast, with record heat arcing from the southwestern states out across portions of the Rockies and into the northern plains. It is quite a turnaround from about a week ago when there was quite a bit of snow on the ground, and now we've melted that off, added that moisture into the end of the subsoil or the topsoil and the subsoils, depending on how much fell. So it's just it's a bit of a relief, and it is a nice situation where we're enjoying some Indian summer-like weather. And the farther east you go, the longer it will last. As we know, as we get through fall, we tend to see more and more energetic storms coming through from west to east. That will be the case once again today. Karen, what are you doing up? It's way too late for a gal like you to be cruising around Facebook waiting for some live to show up. All right, Robin, you too. All right, let's hit this and going through. We're just seeing this aurora. This whole aurora situation it's beautiful. The weather has been incredibly agreeable, especially in those northern latitudes, especially Scandinavia and Iceland in particular. This is a live shot. You can see the Northern Dipper there. There's the handle. There's the Dipper right there, and then Arcturus would be pointing up. Actually, the arc is at the end of the tail, and then the Polaris is off to the north. So this person, obviously, because of the way the Dipper is lying, is off to the north, and it's a real time. So it's really very rapid movement of the aurora. Usually you have to have a little bit of time lapse in there to tease out the movement, but that is not the case right now. So it's very, very active up in those locations. And we'll take a look at what that forecast is as we swing by Estes Park, Colorado. This is a location that was hammered with two fires just 2 weeks ago. Fires to the north and then fires off to the south. They're still smoldering. But the foot and a half worth of snow certainly put a lid on it for the time being. Some wind and continuation of the dry, warm weather could absolutely resurrect them. But this last snow 10 plus days ago has really given the fire crews a great, great bit of latitude into getting up there, mopping up the hot spots, and continuing to put that thing behind it. That fire behind us. All right, a lot of cold air beginning to pool through northwestern Canada into the eastern portion of Alaska with temperatures well below zero. That plunge will head into the middle part of the nation within the next 2 days. We'll begin to see that Arctic boundary about right in through here. We'll begin to race on south, driven by the jet stream off to the north. Farther and farther south, this is Honduras, as ETA, depending on how your pronunciation goes, delivered an incredible knockout blow. And we were, at least the Twitter weather community, kind of surprised at a dearth of videos that have surfaced, most of them dealing with flooding, not so much with the winds. With a full moon situation, we should have been able to see some of the nighttime landfall shots, but those just, at least I haven't come across them yet. They may be there. And the other option is that the infrastructure just isn't in place any longer for that kind of communication to occur. I love me these Tetons. This is the Wyoming side. This is a beautiful, beautiful valley. And it's that time when the moose are out. They're eating before they're having to paw down through the snow, before the 3, 4, 5 foot of snow ends up on this valley basin. So they're just taking the young out for a last bite of grass in this gorgeous weather. And you can also see that we've been dealing with quite a bit of snow on those mountains as well. All right, this is really kind of a cool animation as we see the ice beginning to build back on top or superimposed on top of the warmer than normal temperatures that have been in place all summer long. But we can still see there is snow cover through Asia, developing into the northern portion of the Tibetan Plateau. So the snow is there, above normal temperatures. As long as they're not above 28, 29, 30 through around 32, the snow is going to stick. The sun angle is exceedingly low once you get this far to the north. So, warm temperatures, not a bad thing for the folks living up there, because undoubtedly it will flip. It always flips, and again, we're continuing with the rapidly flowing water in and around Honduras. Nicaragua was the location I was most curious about because they had the direct hit. They absolutely had the direct hit. All right, so we're at yeah, this is current the Aurora. Not a whole lot going on tonight, even on both poles, down over Antarctica or through northern Canada. You got to be up in Hudson Bay, where you would get underneath it and be able to see something. National preparedness level of fire down to 2, or continues along at 2. One new fire, 0 fires contained today. Total burned 8.6 million acres. So that's a fat number, but not quite to the 9.7 that burned back in 2015. All right, what we're looking at in the West, guys, is finally a change. Finally, a change. Now, how long it lasts, one can only hope that it lasts a little bit longer than last winter's rains. But we've got some high clouds rolling in through the southwestern states, no real showers underneath there. This is a fairly healthy event, this one coming in from the north. And the cellular look to the clouds gives away that we've got some cold air rolling over warmer water. That's just kind of one of those signatures with cold, unstable air aloft. But it's these, we're beginning to see some thunder showers and moisture. What we'd like to see is this, ultimately, this humidity get entrained, but we'll have to take this fairly shallow one for now. So we've got some rains into Puget Sound, down into central and almost to the California-Oregon line. But once you move inland, it remains just high and dry. Still some of those fires that were visible, with some of the smoke, they're not as bad as the last couple of days. Still some in Northern California. We've got to get some rain. So the new Palmer Drought Index, or the National Drought Monitor, updated on Thursday. This is the change map where we look at today's situation versus where we were a month ago. Those locations that are highlighted or have a little green shading, the light green is at least one category improvement. Darker greens, and that really only shows up in and around Springfield, Missouri, and then also in far northern Maine. Otherwise, we've got a 2-category improvement across Connecticut, Massachusetts, into Rhode Island, also in and around Springfield, and then up in the Missoula area, Missoula, Kalispell, the Whitehead, Flathead River Valley, the lake area. Even into western Oklahoma, I just noticed that. So there are a few places where we've seen improvement. Those places that are gray are in drought and saw no change one way or the other. So you can see the western, almost 2/3 of the country, because Texas, we're seeing some degradation. More and more drought areas are beginning to manifest. So as we look at the forecast precip, out 10 days, valid 240 hours, total in millimeters. I can actually go to inches here if we'd like to. Not that changes the scale much, but we're looking down here where Eta, that hurricane, may reform, leaving a lot of water in and around Cuba and potentially South Florida. Otherwise, it's just stripes of rain where we get into the 2, 3, 4-inch totals into the darker reds. Not much of that out west. There is some in the coastal ranges of far northern California, but certainly more so Oregon, Washington, and especially British Columbia. But then big gaps on the lee sides of the Rockies where they're just, even despite the storms moving through, the Rockies have this effect of the moisture goes up and over the mountains, and on the windward side, the rain is extracted, the snow is extracted, and then the air comes down on the leeward side, and it goes through a compression. It warms up and dries out. And that's the function of a mountain range, is to collect the water on the windward side and then leave the other side much, much drier. It's just what happens. It's why much of the middle of the nation, and certainly the interior of the Great Basin and Rockies, are just so dry. The water that they get has got to sneak its way in there. It's got to pool there for a couple of days before it can be acted upon. Because if we're just dealing with strong west winds, then it's just stripped out by the first mountain range, and all we get are wave clouds downstream. All right, this is anticipated highs for mañana, for tomorrow, on Friday. And Saturday, it moves a little bit farther east, but 60s way up into New England, and that's just really beautiful November weather. Record warm November weather through Saturday, Sunday. Nothing on Monday, but then it continuing again on Tuesday and Wednesday. And this, for me, I find suspicious. There actually should be something there, not 0 over 0. When you've got values on either side of this, there's something there that is just missing. With what's going on, we tend to look for missing data. And where did it go? Where did it come from? All right, high minimum temperatures. A lot of warm nights out there. A lot of warm nights from Saturday, Sunday, all the way to International Falls, Minnesota. It looks like, let's see if we get an INL. Yeah, 49 degrees, which breaks the previous warm low of 42 set back in 1963 with period of record going all the way back to 1897. So there's some warm nights coming up. And, it's not bad. It's a great November. We'll just see how long it lasts. But what we'll see is the nation kind of split in two parts, with incredible heat in the east and then the west turning much, much cooler. But this is 108 record low minimums, warm minimums. That is nuts. I should actually take a screenshot of that because it's just so epic. But again, it's just a forecast. As we begin to realize it a little bit closer up, we'll see how much of that actually becomes real. But all those across North Carolina, South Carolina, lots of 60s. So a really warm start to next Wednesday, provided the models are accurate. Gorgeous Tetons. Yes, they are, Karen. And Maria, throw me a hashtag. Let me know where you are that you saw the trails, because then I can go isolate those on satellite and confirm from above what you have seen from underneath. All right, warmest 100 in Chino, California, also 9 miles west northwest of Ramona, Arizona, also getting into the triple digits, whereas Peter Sinks, Utah, the coolest spot in the nation this morning at plus 10. This is a beast. Already category 5 as it made landfall, not far from right here. It's just wandering. It's waiting for a sign from above. Where are you going to take me? Where do you want me to go? Drive me somewhere. And we'll look at the models in a moment. Well, let's just go there now because I'm talking about it. It's kind of out of view down here, but out as we move over the next couple of days, it looks like it backs up, begins to reemerge towards the east, heads towards Cuba, and then Saturday night, Sunday, a fat tropical storm, maybe a category 1 hurricane. That's a possibility. Crosses Cuba and then wanders its way towards South Florida. So this thing has gone on and on and on. Look at it. It just kind of gets west of Tampa. It just kind of hangs out there, weakens a little bit, weakens. It's waiting for some direction. It's waiting for some big storm from the north to come along and just sweep it along. But this is a good 8 days out that it still will maintain some kind of identity out until next Friday afternoon, before it's eventually absorbed in and becomes a part of another storm to the north. So that's kind of what's going to happen with Ada. I may end up revisiting this just because. All right, back to the satellite imagery. This is the water vapor. Without vapor, we don't get clouds. With clouds, we can get rain. So there's gradations of transparency. So when we begin to see the oranges, especially, that's very dry air. The yellows, largely transparent. But as we get into the pale, actually darker blues, and then the lighter colors, that's when we're seeing some vapor. And the clouds simply are just right here. It's easy to see the clouds and then the higher clouds from above. So this is the storm coming in that will anticipate wetting most of Oregon, Washington, and probably California, and will certainly assist, I would think, the firefighters even into Idaho. We'll get some of that moisture in there. Temperatures this evening already dropping below freezing in a couple of spots. I'll update this, see if we can't bring in the 9 o'clock numbers to make it just either a little bit cooler or maybe a little bit warmer in the southeast, where we still have some 50s and 60s and a beautiful night. We're to that point where the leaves haven't fallen. We're still, in Kentucky, Tennessee, and into the southeastern states, it's still just gorgeous. And the colors are coming on. The gardens are winding down. So this is just a great weekend to finish that activity. All right, I brought this up just to look at some of the rainfalls in Puget Sound, an inch, a third of an inch, a sixth of an inch, down into Portland, in and around those totals. Let's see if I can't recycle this data that gives me the ability to zoom in a little bit closer into Seattle. So an inch and a third as we get a little farther south of Tacoma. So inch, 2 inches, 1.2, 1.7. That's nice. 4, I have to have some elevation help, some kind of upslope for that to actually to pass my quality judgment. In Portland, a good half inch across the city. We'll just average that. It's a little bit lighter on the west side, a little bit heavier in others, but certainly enough to really assist that. And where it kind of drops off is Eugene, Roseburg, Grants Pass, Medford over into Ashland. Not much at all, if anything, out of this. You can see a few trace totals along the coastal areas, but it just hasn't yet been able to press inland. It will get inland. But it's going to take until we get into the heart of the instability before that happens. All right. Humidity, not much out there in the shades in the green. It's back in Florida as we see those easterly breezes, those easterly showers kind of pushing through. But the rains, the significant rains, are in the Pac Northwest, northern Idaho, Sandpoint, yeah, probably Mullen pretty soon. Certainly Lewiston, Spokane. So they're wet, and we're waiting for this beast. That's probably an overstatement. This storm to come through, and it looks good on the jet stream chart. This guy right here, it comes on through, it holds together, slides down the Cali coast, but it just doesn't spend a whole lot of time over water. If it were out here, another 500 miles west and then sweep inland, that's a different ballgame. Then it's bringing in more humidity. Then it's got more moisture. This just though is looking kind of skinny. So we'll get some moisture, but when you're in a drought situation, some is almost better than none. And then another slug of energy comes in almost on the inside of the coastline, and then reinforces it, swings it, or pulls it back to the west. What that does is it gives time for Gulf moisture to return north. That moisture will swing up north and feed into the storm. And ultimately, during this event, there'll be a good slug of cold air in Montana. And with that, some snow, a foot and a half, maybe some isolated totals, a little bit higher than that. Not as grandiose as what it looked like on Monday, where all the models were generating a good 2 to 4 feet of snow out on the plains of Montana. They've certainly reined it in, not as much, and there's not even as much in the Sierra, but it still gets farther south than, say, San Diego or Temecula, California. There's still some of those mountains getting a little bit of a dusting into far northern Baja. But this is a good beginning. This is a good introduction to the next 10 days. All right, we'll talk about the heat that has been in place and those record temperatures. We'll animate this babe, and we'll go through it day by day by day. You can see the cool air coming through the west, the heat getting compressed off to the east, and within a week, it's nearly gone through New England. But in the southeastern states, the above normal temperatures likely to persist through at least 13, 14, 15, maybe even 16 November, while the west cools off and finally gets a little bit of rain, gets a little bit of snow, gets some cooler temperatures in place. And that is exactly what we need. Oh, Karen, you're too kind. You are worth staying up for. There's not too many weathermen that I can say that about. All right. Thursday night coming to a close. We'll do this Friday. Tomorrow morning, I'll be on Vicky's coffee break show. It's not even bright and early anymore. At 11 o'clock Mountain for Eastern folks. That's after you're done with lunch. My goodness, she call it brunch with Vicky, and then we'll do a weather again late on Friday night at 9 o'clock. Until then, enjoy your evening. Enjoy November. This gorgeous weather, as we know, has its limits, and its end is coming from Canada. It's coming from Canada. All right.